Hey guys, we're live here in New York City. This is Hairbrained Live number 4. And I get the pleasure of cutting some hair tonight. We're back at the main entrance artist studio, which is called The Main here in New York City. This is my model Mona Balthazar, who's also a bomb hairdresser, and we'll get to talk to her a little bit. I did a little pre-cutting on the underneath. I did an undercut with the clipper here. We can talk about that a little bit, but I want to jump right in and get into razor cutting some fringe or some bangs for her, depending on how you want to say it. So this hair is quite long here right now. I've just taken a kind of a curved section across the front, and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to take fine sections, and we'll talk a little bit about razor cutting and why I chose the razor. I'm going to lift this up, and basically what I'm doing first is kind of layering it through from a shorter point on the inside to a slightly longer point next to her face. So yes, we're going for some fun short bangs here. She's got a pretty dramatic undercut, but she's got plenty of length on the top that's going to overlap everything. So the big change here is the bang. So you can see, lock and load. Those of you who've done some razor training before know that safety first. When you're razoring with a straight edge razor, if you hold it like this, it can get quite dangerous. Can be done, but it can be dangerous. So I like to wrap my pointer finger around it and lock. I like to use a fine tooth comb so I get really good tension on the hair, because tension is super important with great razor cutting. Combing it nice and clean, getting nice tension. And I'm using a little bit more of the body of the blade here so that there's kind of a very soft quality to this short hair. So I am scraping her hair a little bit, which definitely kind of roughs up the texture a little bit, but in a nice kind of soft way. Working through. So we'd love to hear your questions, guys. That's kind of what we love to do here. Mona is really making a name for herself with curly hair. Mona Balthazar. You can follow her on Instagram and see all the great things she's doing here in New York with curly hair. And then I'm here just doing my thing. You know, I've been teaching for a very long time, and I think that this ability to reach so many people at once with Facebook Live is an incredible new thing. So you can see the stroke of the razor, checking that hair, seeing how it's laying down. We're going to come back and look in the mirror. We're starting to get a fun kind of short textured bang, and that's going to be that whole front. Then the rest of this hair will drop down around the undercut. Working across, I can tilt Mona's head towards me a little bit. The thing with razor cutting is it's generally done at lower elevations, so you're working inside the hand. So I need to tilt her head. So we have any fun questions coming in yet, guys?
Nothing yet.
No questions.
What's planning with the razor? Why are you picking up the razor instead of the scissor?
Yeah, this is a great question, and it comes up all the time, you know, and it's really an artistic choice, you know. Obviously, the scissor tends to be better for lines and structure and shape, not exclusively, because you can do anything with a scissor. The razor tends to be better for softer lived-in shapes and broken up textures, but you can also cut cleanly with the razor. For me, it's just more of a tool that I'm connected to. I really enjoy it. I love the fact that I can kind of put in a shape in a very kind of soft, diluted way, rather than putting in maybe a really strong shape and then going back later and really softening it up. I really quite love that. But more than anything, it's a design choice. It's just something that, you know, it's like working with water paint as opposed to oil. I mean, you can do beautiful things with both, but they have slightly different characteristics. Just doing a little freehand here, pushing the hair down flatter. So literally, again, since the hair is quite short, I can be fairly aggressive with it and kind of push it down. Pushing it down, let the blade go right on the surface. Working my way across, tilting her head over to me so that I can elevate. I'm trying not to over direct very much. Just kind of right on base. Now you can see how I use the pinky to balance my finger on the head, and then it's all in what we call the stroke. It's about getting the blade moving and letting the sharpness of the blade do the work.
What brand razor is this?
This is made by Feather. It's called a Feather Plie. You know, Feather is the brand that everybody knows. Feather are like the ninjas of razors, right? Everyone's, you know, the one that everyone calls the Feather razor, the guarded stick razor, it's just one of their razors. So they make something else called the plie, which is a folding razor, which what's really important about that is that gives me the ability to get that subtle stroke and balance like a pendulum, and that's the beauty of this razor. This happens to be the original one. This one's probably over 20 years old. It's really hard to find, so if there are any razor junkies out there, I know you're probably drooling over my original plie. I changed the body of it to the new body that came out about 5 years ago. It's a little bit heavier.
Steve Kim still wants to trade.
I know he does. I know he does, but there's only one of these. But I definitely, what's up, Steve? Thanks for tuning in. Love you, man. I love that you're taking that 6-week class again at Sassoon, because that's thebomb.com right there. All right, so you can see this is coming down like a nice short kind of front. I can obviously detail that hairline more later. I've got one section left to go.
Oh, hold on one second. Let me catch up here.
One section left to go. A little bit of over direction on this piece. You can see the undercut there. Did a little clipper work there, kind of pulled out some guards. And I did something fun, at least it was fun for me because I don't do it very often. I saw our friend Ivan Zoot do a video once where he did something called blade skipping, where he took like a 1, and then he took like a 0, and then he took like a 0 in between. And it's such a fun, easy way to do a fade. You know, something I don't do that often, but I had a little fun, you know, getting a little bit of a fade around the edges here. She had this massive undercut already before, but it was a little grown out.
All right, so just take us through real quick what you've done.
So what I've done is worked across the front here. This hair was all basically one length across the front, and we wanted to go into like a short, fun fringe. So I've layered it through from the inside, shortest point being on the inside, and now I'm coming through and flattening it even a little bit more from the inside. Obviously very, very carefully using the blade to push the hair down shorter to longer. Now we're going to come through and do some detailing on the edge, just pinching the hair and cutting this edge down a little bit more. We have a very cute visitor here. Who's our cute visitor? Hey, Malaya. Let's see Malaya. Look at this. We have a very cute future hairdresser here. Say hi.
Say hi. Say hi to Auntie Kelly. Say hi. Right behind.
You're on camera. That's Mona's gorgeous daughter who's here with us in the studio. So here you can see I'm just working kind of like the freehand version of razoring, just working the edge down, working the edge down. And again, generally I don't use the blade flat like this on hair that's any longer than like an inch, yeah, because it really can collapse and damage the hair. But since we're going down so short here, it's actually kind of part of the look to give it that raw finish.
Gerard, can I ask a question?
Yeah, we got DJ Riggs from Main Entrance Artists here. What's up? Come around here.
Dude, just looking at the way you're trickling down with it, what do you, how do you know where to stop when you start from that area coming down? What are you visually looking at?
I mean, I'm looking at like the bend of the head, and I'm kind of like starting right where the head starts to bend, and then I'm stopping like right before I reach the length to try to kind of collapse or trickle down. I think that's a great way of putting it. And we do it with the scissor too, especially on Asian hair. You kind of like chisel it down a bit. And that's kind of the vibe that we're going for there. I'm going to leave it like that for the moment. I like that little bit of randomness. Actually, I'm going to put a little product in now so that it can dry off. This week, I'm using a little KMS, something I haven't tried before. It's called Hair Play Messing Cream. I try to use some different products every week, and we have different guests every week using different products. Today, I'm going to use a little KMS and a little Goldwell. This one I just love the name and the packaging. This is such a cool tube. It's like a scrunchy tube. Uh-oh, bathroom alert. Bathroom alert.
It's live.
Get ready to
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to let that in there. I'm going to let that dry a little bit naturally. Now you can see what you probably haven't been able to see is all this hair that she has behind. She's had a little bit of asymmetry in the past. So first thing we're going to do is kind of start working on some balance. So we're going to go into some very kind of simple razor cutting now. For me, it's important to keep the hair damp when I razor. The type of razor that I use, it doesn't work very well on dry hair because it's super, super sharp and it kind of pulls. There's no guard on here and it can really pull the hair. If I do want to razor dry hair, I'll use a guarded blade. And sometimes I do. For whatever reason, if I feel the need to razor dry hair, I'll use a guarded blade. Okay, so we've got a kind of an existing length in the back here, and then there's asymmetry around the front. So I'm going to kind of start to approach this a little bit like a bob shape, coming across horizontally, working with the existing length that she has to a certain degree, and then working into the sides. And as I go, I'll be adding lots of texture and separation. So here, maybe you'll see a little bit more of the precision of the razor, because I do want to put in kind of a baseline and get this organized. Water is a big part of this, so we want to keep it damp. Keep that hair nice and damp. Not dripping wet, but damp to the touch. All right, got any questions for me, guys?
No, just a hater. Somebody doesn't like the fringe and they think Mona looks like a boy now.
Isn't that what you said? Make me look like a boy?
I think they look like
That's
a boy.
exactly what I wanted to look like.
We
Yeah.
love haters.
You know
We
what's
love-
what's
I
really
said,
great?
make me look androgynous. That's the point.
It's a whole new trend that's out about a boy.
About a boy.
A boy and a girl in the back.
So we definitely, that's by intent.
Let me just get a good angle here.
Why did you start in the front?
I just thought, you know, so we got Ben here. Ben's a passionate community member. He's here shooting some photos and hanging out. And he wanted to know why I started in the front. You know, I think the front for this was kind of like the money of the whole thing, really. So I think it was a dramatic place to start and to really kind of see the big major transformation.
I'm just trying to get a good angle here. 1 second.
Yeah, just cutting in a line. And what I almost always do with my baselines with the razors, I check them with the scissor. Because if you keep going over and over it again, with the razor, it can get a little too weak and weird. So coming in, just point cutting, and getting that line in. Yes. Who's that now?
That Bosco Marquette would like to know if you use a cutting solution when you razor cut.
You know, generally I find water works perfectly. If the hair feels maybe a little bit compromised, I might use a little bit of like a spray-on conditioner, but I don't really feel the need generally to use much more than water. I think generally it works perfectly for me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working over the top of the head, and I'm actually going to over-direct this all back into this square baseline. So this is just kind of really simple but important work so that I can get the length happening here. Coming in, nice tension, slide through so that you can see the guide. Very important to get that blade moving up and down, cut air before hair, and then you can see that line starting to happen. Come through, I'm bringing it back fairly square and working my way through. And you know, it's a different kind of precision, but you can definitely have precision with the razor. You can create lines. It's not just for creating texture and shred. Come through.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep. On this side, we work with the heel going in the opposite direction. So it's tip to the right, heel to the left. I'm not going to start to put any texture in here yet. I'm going to come back in a second phase using tipping and slicing. I really want to get this organized. She's got some strong asymmetry too, so this was kind of an important part to get some balance into the shape. Working over the top of the head, bringing this all right back. Keeping that hair damp. So keep. Got another question?
Yeah, from Frank Mussolino.
Frank, Freaky Moose.
He would like to know why you use the flat of the blade.
Okay, so you use the edge of the blade like I'm doing now when your cutting is more about soft lines. Like you still want lines and structure, but you want them softer.
Let me swing around real quick.
Use the blade flatter when you want to put a lot more graduation on the surface. And obviously that can be tricky, difficult, and somewhat damaging. If you want to be safe, you work from the side of the hair with what we call the edge of the blade. And the truth is, it can keep the integrity of the hair really well. But there are certain times when you want to push the hair a little bit more, and that's when you use the blade flatter. And you put a lot more graduation on every section and a lot more taper and texture on every section. More hair is coming off on this side because of the asymmetry. But again, it still really covers the undercut, so we'll have this cool little bob shape. And then I'll spend some fun time texturizing it. Uh-oh, Malaya.
Is this a guarded razor?
It is not a guarded razor, so obviously proceed with caution. It's something that I've been using for probably 16 years now, almost every day. I took great training to learn how to control it, and I experimented. And if you can lock and load and rotate your comb and hold it, you know, you're safe. The honest truth is, I mean, we work with sharp objects, so we do tend to cut ourselves from time to time, but I cut myself way more often with the scissor nowadays than I do with the razor.
Are you collapsing this shape?
Not quite yet. I will definitely collapse the shape. Right now I'm really just putting in a line, a soft line with the edge of the blade over directing all the hair back, section by section, and I'm really just putting in a square line across the back and over directing the sides into it. So it's actually fairly simple and probably one of the most important things to master with razor cutting, because just like scissor cutting, if you can cut a good clean line with the scissor and control it, chances are you're going to have good dexterity. And it's the same with the razor. If I can control this, cut a line in, look through the hair and see my guide, then I'm going to be going in the right direction on the path to kind of razor craft mastery.
Question from Heather Reed.
Hi, Heather.
She would like to know who taught you to razor cut.
Well, so I started at Sassoon. I spent the first 10 years of my career at Sassoon from about 18 to 28. So that's where I learned how to cut. I learned about shape and hair texture and pretty much everything that you could ever want to learn about. I learned there. But I always kind of wanted to see shapes looser and more texturized. That was just my natural instinct. And basically, I met two hairdressers, brothers, young brothers, when I was probably about 27, 28. They were from Italy, and they did mostly razor cutting. You know, it was a different culture. They came from a different background, and they were coming to Sassoon to learn how to cut, you know, precision scissor cutting, and I kind of latched on to them, and they taught me how to do some razor cutting. Those were my first kind of inspirations. Then I left Sassoon, and I started working with Paul Mitchell, and I actually did some hair cutting with the carving comb, which was, you know, really opened up the horizons for me. But quickly, I realized that there was another type of razor out there. I saw some of the team at Bumble using it, and I thought it was really exciting in the, you know, mid-90s. And that's when I picked it up and I started going for it. I took classes with Bumble, I took classes with Nick Arrojo, who I ended up working with for a long time. And, you know, I just learned from so many people, and I keep learning right now. Thanks for the question.
Another question from Ryan Sambaugh.
Hey Ryan, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in.
He would like to know if you razor on fine hair, and if so, how do you keep the ends from blowing out?
Well, you know, the one thing that I really love about razor cutting is pressure. Like Mona's got healthy hair, it's like guitar strings, and you got to hit it a little harder. But finer hair, you can hit more gently, and you can hit it from the edge of the blade. You don't want to hit it very heavily with the flat of the blade, or, you know, you really can take out too much of the hair. So it's about pressure and rotation. And, you know, when in doubt, use another tool. People ask all the time, you know, what if someone doesn't want a razor cut? Well, then I don't give them a razor cut. You know, Mona, first thing she did when I said I want to cut it with a razor, she said, my hair loves razor cuts. So I was good to go. If she would have said, no, I had a razor cut once, I don't like it, I would have picked up a scissor. I'm just as happy and content to work with a scissor or a razor. Okay, now we're starting to remove some weight. So I'm coming through from the front in the opposite way. I brought all this hair back. Now I'm bringing it forward, and this will give internal movement and layering using a technique called tipping, where I bring this hair forward, lots of tension. I'm lifting it up now. I can see the line. I'm looking through the hair, the last few inches of hair, and I'm catching it with the front right corner of the blade, and literally tapering and putting in separation. If you comb through that, you shouldn't be able to see any line of demarcation. So again, you know, could you do it with a thinning scissor? Could you do it with a scissor? Yes, you could get similar effects with different tools, but there's all subtlety. It's all about subtlety. I like the angle at which I can work with the razor. I find it very comfortable and very enjoyable. Pivoting around, over-directing this hair forward, but lifting it up enough that some of the underneath hair drops away and I don't keep texturizing the same hair. Last 3 inches of the hair with a nice open stroke. Open stroke means wider and deeper. really swinging and using some pressure on the surface of the hair. It's almost like weaving a highlight. Not that anybody does that anymore because everybody hair paints, but it's like weaving. You're weaving with the corner of the blade. So there you go. All that great weaving ability, you can use it now in cutting hair. Weave, 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 weave. And again, focusing on the last couple inches just to really get softness in the ends. And that will help to collapse the hair to a certain degree, back to that earlier question. Working my way through, and then I'll start to come back in from the opposite side. Any more good questions coming in, Liz? Did we meet Liz? Liz is another, with these Hairbrained Lives, we try to get our community hairdressers that, that kind of are drawn to Hairbrained and what we do. We get them to come in and hang out. So we've got Ben, we've got DJ and Barry, we've got Mona here as a model, and then we've got Liz, who's also a great educator, great hairdresser. Everyone say hello to Liz. Let's see Liz.
Hello.
Liz is manning the computer.
And Gerard, I actually have a question for you.
Okay, Barry, yes.
So, razoring seems like a great tool to be able to expose and kind of enhance color. Do you have certain techniques that you like to use when you're working with color in that situation?
Barry, that's a great question. And what I love with, obviously I really like to do it after the hair's been colored so that I can now do a little bit of the weaving. So, I don't know that people use this term as much anymore. I specialize in cutting, but we used to call it like block color.
Absolutely.
Creative block color with a razor cut on top of it is incredible. Because it can really look like there's a lot going on, mingling of the different colors and textures. So Barry's question was, how does razor cutting work, this type of razor cutting work with color? So imagine, this was like a 5N, and this was like a 7R. When I lay that 7R over that 5N, I can actually kind of weave it in. I can see the color, which is, it's kind of really fun. And I do a lot of that with Lupe Voss. She's been someone I've worked closely with over the years. And we do a lot of what another good friend of mine, Scott Cole and Linda Iodice, used to call color cutting. Do you know those guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, they did a lot of block coloring, and then they were doing a lot of dry cutting and slicing, but I kind of gravitated towards doing it with the razor.
Thank you.
So tell us about your sections right now. How are you approaching?
So I'm coming diagonally back off the face. The hair that was cut into that bob shape, I'm now lifting it at a completely different angle. I can see my bob shape from shorter to longer. I'm looking through the ends and grazing it with the corner of the blade. We call it tipping. It's a great way of reducing bulk on the ends of the hair and getting a nice movement. So you can see where the hair is dark. Those are the areas that you want to soften up. Diagonal back sections. Obviously you can see she's got a dramatic undercut, so there's not a ton of hair here. It is a ton of hair, but imagine how much hair she'd have if there wasn't that dramatic undercut.
I have a question from Gina McCartney.
Okay.
She wants to know about cutting on dry hair. Is that something you would or would not do?
With this particular razor, Gina, I don't recommend cutting on dry hair. That's me personally. Some people do it. It's all, it's all to the artist. I find that these are so sharp without the guard that when you put them on dry hair, they pull on the surface, and you can see like these little white balls on the surface of the hair, and I feel like it really can be damaging to the hair. That being said, you can use a guarded razor on dry hair. You can use a lot of product. I have done it before. Like I could flat iron Mona's hair, put a lot of silicone product on or a lot of oil, and I could probably get away with razoring. But I like working with damp hair. I do work with dry hair a lot as well, but I still feel like I have more control and I can be more technical on damp hair. All right, now I'm going to go into lifting this hair and putting in some internal layering. So those last 2 to 3 inches are nicely tapered. Yeah? Now the next thing I want to do is slice it. So I'm going to backhand the blade and I'm going to come in deeper.
1 second.
Yep, I'll be doing plenty of this so you'll get lots of shots of it. Now this is like kind of layering 30% of the hair or so shorter.
It's
a very kind of delicate move. It can be done aggressively. I usually don't do it very aggressively. I'm going to lift that hair up, try to let some of the previous hair drop away. The ends are already tapered. Now I want to come in about halfway. And you see the blade is so thin that those pieces will just disappear into the hair. You know, learning to backhand the razor like this obviously takes a little bit of practice, but you know, anything that you practice you can do. If you like it and you see potential with it, then you go for it. I'm not even going to do it so much into these pieces that hang over. I'm just kind of layering through the middle of the top of her head and letting some of the corners just drop away.
Question from Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
She would like to know, do you find that people have a hard time going from the middle to the left of the head when cutting low elevation or a straight line? Or does that problem occur because the load or the pressure is off?
No, it's more difficult. Listen, when you're cutting towards the left and you're right-handed, you're using the tip, and it's just like writing. You've been doing it your whole life. It feels very natural. But to do what we call heel cutting is a very unorthodox position. You have to put your elbow down and you have to cut in this way. And the honest truth is that it's always a challenge. Even, you know, I still feel challenged often when I do this. So it's just practice a lot. This is always more natural and this is always more challenging. I probably taught several thousand people razor cutting and and 99% always feel the heel or cutting to the left is challenging, so it's totally normal.
Are there any quick ways out that you might want to think about?
You know, I don't really know of any quick ways out in anything, to be completely honest with you, unfortunately. I wish that there were, and if I found one, I'd probably use it. I will say one thing, it's easier to razor when you have over direction. So if the hair is being combed back a little bit, the heel is easier to work with. When you comb the hair straight down, the heel can push a little bit. So if you can get a little over direction and it works with your shape, it helps a lot. All right, I think this is working out pretty good. I mean, you kind of have to, you know, keep it simple. You know, I think that's what we did. She wanted to be able to like still put bits of it up. You know, there's a girl who is involved with Hair Story Studio. Her name's Clara Ray, and super cute. I always look at her profile. She does incredible. She's a great makeup artist. And I just was looking through when I saw what we were going to do on Mona. We were looking through some of her pictures, and I thought, wow, I really like the feeling there. Mentioning Hair Story Studio, on June 20th, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live at Hair Story Studio with Wes Sharpton, who I believe has cut Clara's hair a bunch of times, and he's a brilliant, brilliant hairdresser. And then next week, we've got a Facebook Live with Lupe Voss right here in New York, because I'll be headed down to Australia, but Lupe will be here. So I think I'm good now with the damp cutting. I'm going to put a little bit of product in and do a little simple blow drying, probably just power dry. So now I'm using some of Kerasilk, Gold Kerasilk's new protective blow dry spray. So again, every week trying to use different products here and get to know what's out there in the industry. We used a little bit of the KMS messing cream here on the front. Now I'm using some Kerasilk blow dry spray. And I will probably just do a quick hand dry. So hopefully that doesn't get too noisy or take up too much time. But why don't we take some new questions? Any more questions, guys?
Stephanie Ellsworth, she would like to know, is back cutting for volume or just to soften or layer the hair support?
Is what cutting?
Back cutting.
What I was just doing?
Yeah.
It does give volume. So when I was up here on the top when I came in, it was like putting some shorter layers in the hair. So it does give volume, but it takes out so much weight that it doesn't make the hair poofy. So it's a nice, I think, modern volume. Let's hear some more questions while I do this stimulating blow dry. Now, you know, my own personal style, I very rarely pick up a brush. I try to do as much hand drying and natural styling as possible. I'd rather pick up, you know, maybe a little curling iron or a flat iron to polish hair, but that's my own personal style. But could you blow dry it? Of course, you can do anything, and everybody's got different tastes and different style. But I'm very much a minimalist when it comes to blow drying. I like hair to just kind of do its thing. So, you know, you probably won't see me do much of that. But we're definitely going to have lots of different guest artists on Hairbrained Live. We're going to get some editorial people. We're talking to our buddy Peter Gray, and he wants to do some stuff. So you'll get to see some fun styling, and you'll get to see lots of everything. And every once in a while I'll get my chance too. But we'll keep it mixed up. Got any more questions for me?
No, but Rob Sugarski, maybe?
Rob!
You see this classmate from Philly.
Yeah, Rob. Remember Rob? He came to the first Hairbrained Live that we did. Yeah, this is our fourth one, and the first one we did 4 weeks ago. We had some friends in town, and one of them was Rob Sugarski, who's apparently watching us right now. What's up, Rob? Tara, hey guys. That's what community's about, you know, getting us all together to do cool and fun things around hair. That's why we have people hanging out here, talking, doing things, really for the love of the craft and for the love of hair. That's, you know, kind of what it's about for me, and that's why we're doing it.
Deborah Collins was,
Hey, Deborah.
she was saying that she sees how the little white ends that you're talking about. She wants to know, is it for angle of the blade, or is it just that it's not, you're not being clear to that?
It could be a combination of the two. If you see the ends kind of getting white, those little, they look like little white balls. Right, Malaya? You like Mommy's haircut? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Deborah, if you see those little white balls, the hair could be too dry, and it could be the angle of your blade. So try to rotate the blade more towards, until it's perpendicular to the head is the safest way. And then, you know, with certain textures of hair, you can go more parallel to the head.
Adrian Lopez would like you to come to New Orleans, please.
Oh, I'm coming to New Orleans in July. Yeah, on July 10th, I'll be there at Elevat Care. You know, my buddies, the Neal Corp, the Neal family, they're doing incredible events all over the South, and Hairbrained is committed to be at every single one of them. So myself and different team members will definitely be at every Elevat Hair, doing live hair on stage. These guys, main entrance artists, are going to be at one. I think they're going to be at New Orleans too. Yeah, so we're going to have a great old time. I'll see you in New Orleans, Adrian.
She'll be there in the front row.
Perfect.
People are loving it, loving the shape, loving the style, loving the cut,
Getting from this side.
clapping hands, happy faces, thumbs up.
Good. You know, you can use your hands like a tool. If I feel like I need to stretch the hair a little bit, I use my fingers like a vise. You know, it does come from my Sassoon background. For the first 10 years of my career, I wasn't allowed to use a round brush. They didn't believe in it, they didn't use it. So you had to either use a Denman brush or your hands. And I always really preferred my hands as much as possible. And it, you know, I kind of designed the way that I cut hair around it. Using my palm here to help push this down and across.
Casey would like to know if you think that an undercut makes for a better bob shape.
Well, Casey, great question. An undercut makes for an easier bob shape, I'll tell you that, because you're taking out, you know, all the most challenging parts, the hairline. So even a little undercut, it's very often when I do a bob, I might just undercut the first section, or maybe the first 1 or 2 sections. I mean, obviously this is more of a statement, this is quite dramatic, but yes, if you want to show off very strong lines, an undercut is definitely going to make your life a lot easier. So this hair is almost dry now, just pushing it around a little bit, and then I'll come in with the scissor and do some detail work. You can see it's got a really kind of shattered bob effect, and we've got some drama with the bang and the undercut. Okay, so I'm going to come in now and do some dry cutting. I'll use a scissor that I think is great for dry cutting. It's a VMAX scissor that's kind of made for dry cutting. And we'll come in and we'll use it a bit, kind of chiseling on the surface as I was doing before with the razor. That pushes and collapses the hair. Obviously dramatic, you know. I'm not saying go out there and wallop every client's bang off. Mona's a hairdresser. She wanted something a bit stronger. And we looked at some pictures, as I mentioned before, and we said, that's cool, let's do that. Yeah, there was a great quote from Bo Bollinger this week that we shared out there that I love to do pretty hair. I really do. I love simple, pretty hair, but I really get excited by doing things that are a little bit more raw and a little bit different. But we all make our bread and butter doing pretty simple hair. So I'm not saying that you should go out there and whack off everyone's fringe and do a buzzed undercut, you know? But when you get a chance to do it, enjoy the shit out of it.
So walk us through now what it is that you're doing, the sections you're taking.
All right, so now I'm just going to lift out all this hair, and what I like to do, and those of you that have seen seen me razor before, I always seal the ends of the cut with the scissor. So I think even the best razor cutting in the world will leave the ends a little bit raw. Now, if they're too raw, I don't think that's a good feeling. I don't think it grows in well. So I always go back through and dust through the ends of the hair, and I seal them with the scissor, the tip of the scissor. I look at the ends, I look for anything that looks weak or maybe overly thin or scrawny, and I seal them with the ends. Seal the ends. Yep.
Question from Jen Martins.
Hey, Jen.
She would like to know what the basic difference between a traditional razor with a guard and a non-guarded razor is.
So when you work with a guard, which I have and do, the first thing that hits the hair is the guard. So when you're trying to really feel the hair on the blade and know how much pressure and rotation, it's like having a wrapper on the candy. You can't really feel it. I'm not saying you can't do great haircuts, and I've seen them, I've hopefully done a few myself, but for me, an unguarded blade, number one, it's the sharpest thing you can cut hair with. Sharper than $1,000 pair of whatevers, but only for one haircut. By the end of the haircut, it loses that edge. But I love the sharpness of it. I love to be able to feel that sharpness on the hair, and I love the sensitivity and responsiveness of it. But can you use a guarded razor? Of course. If you feel it's safer or for whatever reasons, you can use anything you want. You can use a can opener if that's what you think is going to work. So just looking at some of these pieces that maybe are dropping over the fringe and freehanding into them. I love when you see that little bit of the undercut there. I think that's really fun, and I think sexy in a very modern way, because it's kind of brave and it shows that there's something going on there. I think, bravery can be really sexy and pretty, that she's brave enough to do something different and for her own style. I'm going to come underneath the hairline.
One sec, let me find my second here.
And
And yeah.
Adrian Lopez just asked if we ever take the show on the road from New Orleans. So
I just mentioned it while we were outside that we're all going to be in New Orleans. Me, Barry, DJ, bunch of other people. Hair God Zito, I'm excited to work with. Someone I've never actually, I don't think I've ever met. Who else is there? Quite a few people. Tatum Neal, Adam Federico is going to be there. Quite a few people. Go over to the Elevat Hair website and check it out. And also, this summer we've got, in late July, we've got Teach-In, which is our kind of marquee event where we get different groups of people together, and we've got an incredible lineup, and we hope if you're going to be headed to NAHA or PBA Beauty Week that you join us for Teach-In. All right, just coming down to the finals here. I think I'm going to pick up some of this messing cream. Haven't used it before, used it just a little bit before on the fringe. I think it's kind of like a nice texturizing cream paste. Put a little bit on my fingertips and pull it through the ends. It's really fun every week here to kind of play with and try different products, things that maybe I haven't used before, and just kind of get a feel for them. This is nice, it's got a nice kind of, gives the hair a little bit of guts and separation.
Can we get a little side profile?
Yes, questions?
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about going back through with your scissors to finish your cut?
Yeah.
Just how much you're taking off?
As little as possible. My goal is to really do an air cut when I come back through with the scissor after a razor cut. You shouldn't feel like you need to do too much. If you do, maybe you need to work on your razor technique a little bit. I know I did when I first started razoring, I used to take a lot more hair off than I do now. Now I just seal the ends. like literally as little as possible. But it does change the wearability of the hair. I don't want like a raw open end, so just by coming through and just very, very lightly snipping the ends, it doesn't take away the texture or make it blunt in any way, it just seals them. It's like putting a sealer on a color, I think, anyway. See, the thing about razors, I think of them very much like bleach, or whatever you want to call it, lightener. It's the most powerful tool that a colorist can use. It can make the hair fall off, or it can make some of the most beautiful results that people pay the most money for and get incredible reputations. And I think the razor is quite similar in a lot of ways. I'm going to run the iron through the ends a little bit, just to get a nice kind of finish on here. Plug that in. I'm not going to use a comb because I don't want it to get overly kind of perfect. I'm just going to grab chunks and kind of pull it through the ends a little. So if there's any last questions, we're getting pretty close to the finale here. Yep.
Casey Ricketts is asking if she can see some different ways to style it when you're finished.
Yeah, she can.
Or maybe just talk about different ways.
Yeah, I think, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let Mona play with it in the mirror. Because she can twist it. That's one of the things she wanted to do, was be able to like twist it up in a bun and play around with different things. You know, when it comes to styling, I'm a pretty one-trick pony, and I won't lie. I like to cut, and then I like to just simply style with my hands. And I think if it's a great cut, then the personality comes out when the client plays with it, or when a great hairdresser plays with it. Because I'm much more of a hair cutter, so I won't lie. But we'll have some great hairdressers on Hairbrained Live for sure. We're going to Hair Story Studio in a few weeks. We're going to have Peter Gray. We're also talking with the ZGAT team. They're coming to New York. We're going to get them to do some live demonstration for you guys on HB Live, Hairbrained Live, and we're going to have some serious fun there. So just compressing those ends a little bit. Looking for that separation. I love that when it kind of tucks behind the ear. Simple. There, I see I did another style. Look.
Exactly. Versatility.
Wait, I'm going to restyle it. Hold on. Now, you know, I've tried. I've taken hairdressing classes. I've assisted Peter Gray. I've taken classes from Sharon Blaine. My heart is just in cutting and hand drawing. I just can't fake it. Can't fake it. Okay, one last look at the fringe, and then I'm going to be done. So if there are any last minute questions, then we'll let Mona play around with it in the mirror. How does it feel?
It's good. I love it.
All right, it's all you.
Yes.
Wind it up, it's really good.
You want to style?
Yeah.
Let's go.
We got a great stylist here.
I was gonna say, I'm DJ.
We got DJ Riggs here. He's a great stylist.
Get the magic touch.
What do you mean?
Just anything, it's fine.
Is this new?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's great.
Look at mommy.
You like Mommy's hair? Pretty?
Ooh, Gerard, nice. You're making me want to play now.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So there you go. This is what happens when great people hang out and we collaborate. And DJ's a great stylist, and he's going to do some styling.
All right, hold this for me, love. Let me just get some. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to style this. Larry, do me a favor. Just turn up the music and let's just enjoy some styling happening.
Sure.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I'm going to
Are you
my
just gonna
hands.
do it?
Yeah. These are the best styling tools ever. It's the hands. So we're just going to add some still life to the hair and like give it just some texture from EDA. And then we'll start to play with Gerard's shape. Like he already has a really great feel. I know a little bit about Mona, so I'm just going to like go in and like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Really get that hair to do something for us.
People would like to know when they can tune in some more live feeds and if they can do this babysit.
So we're going to do these Hairbrained Lives every Monday. This is our 4th Monday in a row. And we do them every Monday at 7 p.m. And we'll do some special ones as well from time to time. What was the other question?
Can they do this again? If they do this
It remains live forever on our Facebook page. You can go back and watch all 4 of them that we've done before. We did one last week with DJ, a week before with myself and Lupe. So yeah, unlike Periscope, which is why we're not using Periscope anymore, we're going to stick to Facebook Live. That video will live on Hairbrained's Facebook page forever. Now, if you want to be notified, what you want to do is go in and follow Hairbrained and go up and say, see Hairbrained first.
Like a dude in
So always in our feed, you'll see it. Look at this. This is what I love.
Yeah.
Taking it there.
We'll take some of the round brush, light it on the product. You see?
What product was that exactly?
That's still like molding wax. It's just
A wax.
It's just a little wax. We put some of that in there. Light on
All right.
that.
Right in the
It's gonna
brush?
Come right from where Gerard started that razoring process. Notice that he said trickling down. So I want to create that finish. You see, I use the brush to just really establish that trickling down element. And that's why I love listening to the words that artists like Gerard say, because you can just really translate that into styling ability. He puts the shape in, he sets the canvas up, and then it's just coming back and enhancing that. And I think that's what community is all about. And with Hairbrained, just allowing this opportunity, because normally we don't get to work with each other's shapes.
Yep. Awesome. Now, Barry, color it.
Barry will be doing a color soon.
Yeah, we're gonna have Barry do a color within the next month. We could do it in New Orleans, yeah. So we'll do a live broadcast from New Orleans, definitely.
Easy style.
And easy style.
So it looks like from this side?
Yeah, let me let you.
I know, right?
All right, guys, thank you.
Magic
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Be sure to follow Hairbrained and go up to the top and say, see Hairbrained first. Yeah? So that you get notifications right away. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Love you.
It's awesome.